Hey, what's up, CC students? Hope you guys are having a great week. Welcome back to, what is this, like episode 5 now of Table Talk?
Yes, sir.
A little different this week. We got a special guest with us. This is Jeremy Stevenson. He is our online campus pastor. Jeremy, you want to give him a quick rundown on Jeremy?
Okay, so my name's Jeremy. My middle name is Ray. My last name is Stevenson. So is that all you need? No, I have a wife, Ariel. We've been married for almost 10 years. We have a 4-year-old named Sky and a 1.5-year-old daughter named Beckett. So they're pretty awesome. And we just moved here like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
A week before the pandemic, we got here. So.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few months in Jacksonville, I bet.
Yes.
Well, Jeremy, he's our online campus pastor, but he's also working with young adults a little bit, helping out with some stuff there. Yeah. And I know you guys are actually doing some stuff this week.
So usually our thing is on Thursday nights, but this week we're not doing Thursdays. We're going to meet Friday night at 6 at my house. We can get the address to you guys if you're graduating seniors. I would love to have you come hang out with your young adult group. I'm making some hot dogs, some burgers. It's kind of my jam. So come hang out, get some food. Maybe Justin and Brent and those guys, whoever can come hang out. And would love for you guys to all join us. So, come hang out.
Yeah, so graduated seniors, if you're catching this, come join us this Friday around 6 o'clock.
Yeah, 6 o'clock,
If you're not a graduated senior, we'll see you next year. Yeah. Well, if you're a junior, I guess we'll see you next. But sometime you'll get the invite. But hey, this week we just wanted to grab a few people and we sent out some questions. We've been asking a few guys some questions that you may have had, some questions that maybe haven't been answered or you haven't had the opportunity to get answered. So we're just going to chat through a few of those. So we'll go ahead, if you guys are good with it, let's jump right in. Let's jump in with kind of like a fun one. Okay. And it's not like just crazy, but there's a big, maybe not a big debate, but there is a debate about whether or not the Earth is actually like 6 billion years old, or if it's 6,000 years old, right? Like there's kind of this contrast between science and between faith. Right. The science would say that it's 6 billion years old, and for the most part, faith would say that it's like 6,000 years old from when God created the Earth. So that debate is kind of new Earth versus old Earth. Okay. So we got the question, how old is the Earth?
Yeah, I don't know, so let's just move on.
Next question.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just jump in with a couple thoughts here. Okay, so first off, I grew up young Earth. Earth was 6,000 years old. Jurassic Park was a lie, dinosaurs are the devil, like that's kind of how I grew up thinking that, it was just this like science lie about all these fossils and all this other stuff. I actually went to Bible college and like heard about this old Earth thing. I didn't even know it was a thing, but the whole old Earth theory would say that in the days of creation, that each day wasn't like a 24-hour period, that it was like thousands or millions or even billions of years wrapped up in one day of creation. Yeah. And so like, I'm totally okay with the Earth being 6 billion years old. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I'm also okay with it being 5,000 to 6,000 years old. And we were just talking about this. Yeah. If you like put my feet to the fire and said, give me how old the Earth is, I would say that it's 5,000 to 6,000 years old, but God made the Earth mature. Like, most of us would argue that Adam was like an adult. When God made Adam and Eve, that they weren't babies, that God made Adam and Eve as 30-some-odd-year-old adults. Right. I would say he did the same thing with the Earth. So God built the Earth with like fossils, with like history. He like almost backdated it, if that makes sense. So I would argue, if you made me, I'm okay. If you believe the Earth is billions of years old, I'm cool. If you think it's 5,000 to 6,000 because of the timeline of history, I'm cool with that. But if you made me decide, I would say 5,000 to 6,000, but it's got history inside of it that it would make it look like it was way older.
That's interesting. I love the way you say the like mature thing, especially when thinking about Adam and Eve. Yeah. Because this is one of those like conversations around like Christianity and science that I actually really enjoy having.
Oh, it's a fun one.
Because either way, I think the point of the story is God created the world.
God made it.
Right?
Ooh,
like,
preach.
if you can just stick to that, okay, then let's just have fun and talk about everything else. So God created the world, but like there is that fun side of it. And I think I've never viewed it through like, hey, Adam and Eve were mature when they were created.
And nobody would question that.
Adults. Yeah. Like that's not, I've just never paired that with like,
with Earth.
Why couldn't the Earth be like that? Yeah, because I've always kind of been under the new Earth.
Yep.
Meaning, I got to make sure I get those right. Because in Genesis, and this is what I think a lot of people look at, like it says, you know, the sun rose, or there was morning and there was evening on that day, and so then it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's.
But
that
science and creation are not enemies; they are one and the same. Yeah. And I think your point is super good. Like the big thing, and all that the writer of Genesis was concerned about. Was clearly not concerned about the arguments we were going to have in 2020.
Yeah.
The writer of Genesis was concerned with one thing, that God made it. And so the other details didn't really matter.
Yeah.
So.
That's good. All right, let's keep going. We're going to try and get through as many of these as we can. Can you elaborate? This is another question we got in. Can you elaborate on the meaning of our spiritual gifts?
The meaning of them?
The meaning. So I would almost frame it as like, how do we use our spiritual gifts maybe? How do we know what our spiritual, I don't know exactly the context that this question is coming from. Hey, if you ask this, you can post it in the comment, or if you want to follow up on it, or maybe you have kind of a tangent, post it in there. But I would almost kind of go two ways with it. Like, how do we know what our spiritual gifts are? And if we do, what do we do with them? Like,
how do we put them to use?
Yeah, how do we put them to use? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think off the bat, the how do you know is tricky, because I think that could almost always be evolving. Like if the spirit inside of you is a living, active thing, if it's, then the experiences that you have in life, the spirit is going to use those for God's glory. Yeah. I think the key to a spiritual gift, though, if I could like define it, is it's something that you have a heart towards, or something that you're good at that God gets the glory for, rather than like let's say you're an incredible athlete. That could be a spiritual gift, or it could just be your thing, right? Like you could use that for the glory and the name and the fame of Jesus,
right?
Or it could be just something you do to get rich, get a scholarship, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I mean, that's initial thoughts. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of like, I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard one time that your spiritual gifts are where your skills, your passions, and God intersect. Like where you have a skill in something, something that you're good at, something that you care about, that you're passionate about, and something where God's, like you said, gonna get the glory. Like at the point that those intersect, that's like a spiritual gift, and that could be a number of different, like it's not just like you have one. That could be a number of different things. But I would agree too. I think that can evolve and change, because even for me, like as I think about skills and passions and different, like when I was in 8th grade, the only thing that I cared about and was good at was playing basketball, and that's what I was passionate about.
Right.
And so that like you said, that could intersect with God, and I could use that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, well, I'm not very good at basketball anymore, and I'm not super passionate about it anymore.
But at the same time, I will say sometimes we get caught up on the spiritual gifts conversation and think that we should only be using that thing for God's glory. Like if Tanner's good at, I don't know, what's something you're good at? This is weird. Like if you're
he is good at basketball.
Okay, Tanner's good at basketball. Justin's not good at basketball. It's like, okay, so Tanner should use his gift for basketball, but Justin shouldn't. Like that doesn't line up either. Yeah. Like you still should, even what we aren't good at, God still gets the glory for. Like, and so you can get out there and play basketball and build some relationships, make some jokes, do some commentary on the sidelines, whatever it might be. So like, what is that verse? Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all for the glory of God. So spiritual gifts matter, because I think they aim us in the direction that God has led us, but also at the same time, don't just forget the stuff that you're not good at too. Don't just avoid it. Like you let God use it too.
That's good.
Yeah. I think that I mean, we often talk about, kind of what you were just saying, like even if we're not good at something, still allowing God to move through.
Yes.
Like I know I use this phrase a lot, moving to the side and just letting God move or speak or act for you. You know what I mean? And I love that you brought up passions. Because I think sometimes, Christians try to avoid talking about passions or like, doing things that are fueled by our passions. But no, like God has given us those
passions. that heart.
Like, why not allow that? Yeah. Like, allow God to use those passions. Yeah. So for me, like, my gifting has kind of changed over time.
Right.
Like when I was younger, like Justin, I loved sports. Like I've always picked up athletics kind of just naturally. Like I played football a little bit, I played basketball a little bit, and it all came very naturally. But when I got older and became a young adult, and I got old and out of shape and lost my athletic ability, I fell in love with music.
Yeah.
I kind of, when I was living overseas, I got thrown into playing drums. And I had no idea I had any rhythm.
Right.
I had no idea that I had a passion for music. But man, like being a young believer at that point and discovering music and how God uses a passion for music, like it literally changed my life.
And so both are spiritual gifts for you, right? Sports was and music is, and like it doesn't I don't think it's I think we just make it to be some super specific thing when it's really just like you said, passion, your skills, Jesus uses.
Yeah, it's not so much like, hey, you have a spiritual gift in accounting.
Right, so take this.
You're going to go be an accountant for the like. It's not always as cut and dry as that. Yeah, I like that one. That's a good one. Another one that we got, what are some ways to improve my prayer life?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Shut up. Quit. Like, literally, quit talking some.
Yeah.
Like, man, your life, mine, I won't point fingers, so filled with noise, and maybe that slowed down a little bit over the past couple months. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, like, quiet is an okay thing. Like, listening, and getting out of your own head a little bit. And I think, like, I even think about, if you guys have been to, like, CIY stuff, you know, like, they always have those moments where it's like, just go off, find a quiet spot by yourself, and it's like nobody knows what to do because we're not used to it. But I think as much as what we say to God, it's like giving him space to, like, get in our hearts a little bit. So I don't know, that's one thing. Quit talking, start listening.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, that was one of the things that really helped my prayer life, because number one, I'm also like a super unfocused person in that sense. Like my mind always has to go. I get distracted super easily. So just being able to sit and like allow my mind to go, wherever my mind goes, like I just kind of let it, and like I just process, and but also like finding a space that you can do that is big. Like I know for me, and this may sound kind of weird, but like my wife and I have one car, and so we'd like drive to and from work together. And so when we switched to that and started driving to and from work together, I lost that quiet time
moment,
because I just don't I don't listen to music. Like my drive home, my mind's focused on driving, so then I can also like in the back of my mind just be still and like whatever. But I still love just sitting in my car, and like, so if you're ever like looking for me around here, just go look out by the lake, and my car is probably parked on the backside. And like, if I ever just need to get away, or like, you know, I'm having a rough day or whatever, like, I'll just get in my car, park it in the back, and just sit there. And like, you know, once I've sat there for a little bit in that quiet, it almost feels like, okay, now I know where I need to go with my prayers.
And I think that's good, because like, I was taught that prayer life had to be like buttoned up more, like before meals, before bed, and I think that almost makes it less intentional. Like finding those moments when you can almost just like take a step out in the car, in the shower, in your room, whatever it might be, just being intentional about finding some of those moments rather than just your cookie cutter, say the same thing in your prayer every meal. God, thank you for this food and bless those who made it. Amen. Like maybe finding moments to be more intentional.
It's almost like we, like those, when we get into that system, that program, that structure, or it's like we just become so robotic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, could you imagine? I look at prayer very conversational. So like, you know, Jesus is our friend, right? So he already knows what's on our heart. So we should be going to him and saying, "Here, okay, God, like here's on my heart. Here's what's on my heart." And then, like you said, dude, shut up.
Yeah, right.
Sit back and listen.
Right. Don't preach at him.
Right. And we treat God like he's a genie sometimes.
And
it's like, hey, God, like I need this, I need this,
Yeah.
I need this, I need this. okay, I'll check back in tomorrow, around dinner time.
I won't cuss it all today.
Yeah.
Make sure these really sink in, God.
Yeah, but man, for me, like I grew so much when I started treating it more like a conversation.
Yeah.
Where it was like, hey God, like I'm in pain. I'm like, what do you have to say about this?
That's good.
And then as soon as that happened, I dive into scripture, and then God speaking
Sure.
to me through that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, okay.
I think that's a big piece too. Is like when you can pair prayer and scripture together, like what God can speak through His Word, like especially when, like for me, it takes time to get in that mindset. It's like I can't just open my Bible and start reading. I'm good to go. Like if I spend some time in prayer, if I spend some time just being quiet, like and allowing myself to listen for a second, and then open up God's Word, I feel like I can noticeably feel a difference in what I'm reading and how I'm interpreting it. Like
how it sinks in, lands,
and how much I can retain it and like remember that down the road. That like, oh hey, I remember reading this story or that story. Like
it's almost like we're afraid of silence because like it makes us uncomfortable.
It does.
It's awkward.
Right. It's like if we were all to just sit here and just stare at each other, like we feel like that's how a prayer is with God if we don't talk.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for me. Like
no,
he's not. He's good. Like
Sometimes I think He's waiting for us to do that.
Waiting to listen a little bit.
And kind of like COVID, like is just God. In my opinion, if we don't look at this as COVID, like as God just kind of putting the brakes on our world, on our lives, and just being like, asking me at least for sure, like, okay, am I still enough? If you can't go to your, your Sunday morning rock concerts and all that, so like, am I still enough? Am I still the same God? Is the gospel still, the gospel? Am I still enough? And so it's like, okay, when you're uncomfortable and things are quiet, is this still enough?
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's good.
That's good. I like that question. We got one more that we're gonna try and hit. We don't want to go too late, but this one's a little more serious, a little more heavy.
Okay.
How can I forgive someone when their wrong to me seems unforgivable? That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Jesus?
Yeah.
Can that be the answer? Like,
really.
But seriously, man, if I think about all the ways I've wronged other people, and then look at the cross, like how can I not? Yeah. And I do think there's a difference a little bit in forgiving someone and maybe trusting them again. Like there might be, like I think if you wrong me, and let's say you kick me in the shins for no reason. Because you seem like a shin kicker. Anyway, I don't know why that just came to my head. But so you kick me in the shins for doing something to you. Hey, I might be like, dude, Justin, I forgive you, man. We're good. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stand in striking distance tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, I think it's hard to look at the cross and see what Jesus did for us, and then be so proud and so arrogant and so to turn around to someone else and say, I know what Jesus did for me, but I'm not doing that for you.
Yeah.
And so, man, look, I've been hurt pretty good a few times in my life. And so I know that it's easier to sit on my moral high horse and say, oh, you have to forgive because Jesus did.
Yeah.
I know it's like raw and it's hard and it's painful, but so was the cross. And I think Jesus is worth it. At the end of the day, I think you look more like Jesus when you forgive someone who wronged you than maybe any other time in your life.
Yeah.
So I would just say Jesus is worth it.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the end of Colossians 3:13, where it says, "Forgive as the Lord forgave you."
Yeah.
Like, man, I think forgiveness is such a personal thing, but also we need to look at it from the opposite perspective too. Like, you've been hurt, but at the same time, we've hurt people.
Yeah. Right.
We've been in the spot
the
where we
shoes.
have done wrong.
Right.
And so now you flip it, and we're the one that's being hurt. And it's like, you know what, man? Imagine if someone, how would I feel if someone held that grudge against me? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think life is way too short for us to hold grudges.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is such a personal thing. And like, if I hold on to that, if I let that just control me and like just wreck me,
right?
Like, I can spend so much time doing other things, worrying about other things. If I just let that go, it's hard.
Oh, for sure.
It's hard to let it go.
I had a moment real quick. Like 30 seconds. So, one of the main reasons that like God communicated to me that He wanted me to do ministry someday. This guy named David Reinhardt at the church that I grew up at. He was the worship pastor there. Well, a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, him and his like 4 people were in a car. They got hit by a drunk driver. He died on the spot. Only the oldest, one of his daughters, one daughter died. One of his daughters lived. Was the only one that walked away from the accident. The guy, the drunk driver, was put on trial. Oldest daughter, who was in the car, had major medical stuff. Saw her family die in the accident, showed up at the courtroom, walked up, gave the dude a hug, told him that she forgave him. Wow. And I remember reading this on like a news article. I didn't even know it had happened in real life. I'm reading it on a news article, and that act, like I didn't walk away from that thinking, man, she's such a great person. I walked away from that being like, man, Jesus is such a good God.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe the most Jesus you will ever get to give to someone else is when you extend forgiveness. No matter how hard it is, no matter how ugly it is. And so I just want to be like Jesus. And so if I can do that through forgiveness, even if it sucks, let's go for it.
I mean, it's uncomfortable.
I don't have anything to say to that. That's a perfect wrap up right there.
It's uncomfortable.
It is.
Do you think Jesus was comfortable
right,
with
exactly,
on the cross?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it's if we don't forgive, we are punching that sacrifice right in the nose. Like,
And I think the only thing I think I would add is it's okay to have this conversation and to talk about this, because I think all 3 of us would say like the forgiveness that we've had to give and receive was not like a, hey, they just did this thing. The very next step was, hey, we're gonna forgive this, and it like this was like, at least for me personally, like I know the times that I was hurt the most. I mean, months and months and months
and I think
of
that's
like prayer and wrestling and trying to figure that out. Like it's not, it's not a smooth path to go down. But man, like you said, to be able to share Jesus with somebody in that way, and to truly follow in His footsteps, it's bigger than that. But man, this was good. This is a fun table talk. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this week. Wasn't quite as wild and hectic and possibly cringy as it has been in the past.
There's no lavender ice cream, praise God.
But this is kind of going to be the structure moving forward. We want to use this time to just answer some questions, to just go over some things. Cool. We're going to have Jeremy on a few more times because he's solid and killing it. And we'll have some other people on. If you guys are interested in joining us for a table talk, let us know. We'd love to have you come on and you can ask questions or help us answer questions on here. But if you do have other questions, just post them in here. Keep those questions coming, and every week we'll tackle 2 or 3 of them and just keep chugging along. So, hey, thanks for stopping by today. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications so that every time we post, you'll get notified and can watch it and check it out. But hopefully you guys have a great week. We'll see you next week.